All right, once again, it's time for Off the Top Sportscast. I'm John, and that big guy right there is Roy. Roy, the topic of the day is going to be this NFL draft. Now that it's over, we're just gonna recap a couple of things, see what we think about it. But before we do that, go ahead and like and subscribe. We love it. So, Roy, this was a weird draft. Um, they always kind of say nobody has the same guys at the top, or whatever the old phrase always is. Everybody's evaluation is not always the same. There was no other draft other than this one that I think that was so evident, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, this was a draft that a lot of, I think this was a draft I could say that there was very few things that were expected, a lot of
Right.
unexpected, a lot of twists. Um, it wasn't like last year where you had some movement, but everybody kind of stayed in line.
Hmm.
Not this draft.
Yeah. And so one of the takes that I took from this first round of the draft and kind of the whole draft for this team is that they absolutely hate their quarterback. This team hates their quarterback so much that they did not draft a tackle in the whole draft, and they only drafted one offensive lineman who was a left guard. And this quarterback is left handed, so they needed a right guard. And that is going to be the Miami Dolphins. The Miami Dolphins absolutely hate Tua. I do not know why. I don't know what he did to them, but just how they drafted was absolutely baffling to me that they didn't come out of this draft with at least 2 to 3 tackles.
Yeah, I think what they showed is we paid Tua too much, and we want him knocked out. We don't want him to leave the NFL because they could have solidified themselves a lot better, and they didn't.
And it's not about the pick that they did pick.
No,
You know, that defensive tackle is really good. It's not about him. It is about them and knowing that this was not a deep offensive line draft, and they could have gone and got a tackle. They could have gotten 2 tackles and move a tackle inside if they have to, or that happens all the time. Like, I do not understand the move that they made here. Um, the defensive end from Michigan, I mean, defensive tackle from Michigan is really good, and he's going to be a good player for them. But if you can't score points, it doesn't matter how many points you stop them from scoring. You know, this was just a baffling draft as far as that was concerned.
I agree. I agree. I think they should have looked at solidifying, helping Tua out, and keeping him upright. I think you're right. I think that was a debacle on their end.
And at the very least, Simmons, I believe is his name, the tackle that Kansas City got in the 32nd pick, with the 32nd pick, that guy was a beast all year and got hurt. And then that's the only reason he dropped. But they still could have gotten him. He still would have been an upgrade over what they had. It was just, anyway, a ridiculous thing. The Of course, the topic that everybody is talking about is that Shedeur slipped to round 5 to Cleveland. Let's talk about Cleveland's draft. I started off well. I thought it started off good,
Third, Michigan. Yeah.
right?
Mason.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it started off with them trading back. I said, of course you're going to trade. We've talked about this before that I thought they should trade back, but I didn't think they would actually do it. They traded back. They did the smart move. They got more twos. They got a first next year. I'm like, okay, were cooking Cleveland, and then they did the dumb things again. They picked a quarterback, and then they picked another quarterback. I,
I yeah, I don't understand. I don't understand what they were thinking when they looked at their picks. Um, I believe I could try to look real quick, but I believe they have 5 quarterbacks on the roster.
well, I know they have the two rookies now. They have Pickens, they have Joe Flacco, and they have what's his name, who is hurt. So yeah, that's five.
Oh, that's right. That's 5. That's right. Yeah, that's 5.
Yeah.
So, and again, Shedeur, I think the quarterbacks that they got at that time, it is what it is. You got it. You can't, you have nothing to lose. You go out, you
Right.
got Dylan Gabriel, who was in Oregon. He was a UCF quarterback. I hated when he
Hmm.
left UCF. He left
Yep.
UCF. And he has moments of highlights and a lot of lowlights. Shedeur, I think technically is a better quarterback than than Gabriel. Um, really, the good thing about this pick, these 2 picks is, listen, you go out there, you got Flacco, you got the old experienced guy, um, who's been out for many years, who really, when he came off of retirement, has kind of brought some life to some of these teams, did very
Hmm.
well. So, hey, no harm, no foul, right? You got Flacco. You got these other other guys that you go with the 2 rookies. I'm sorry to say somebody's not going to make the team. I'm sorry to
That's right.
say somebody may make the practice squad, and that's it.
And one of them's not going to make it even onto the practice squad.
No, one of them won't make the practice.
And here's what I say: if you put those two rookies together, they would be one great quarterback
Great.
because Gabriel has more physical attributes, but doesn't have it upstairs. Shador has it more upstairs, not and less of the physical. So it's kind of a funny mix that way. Um, I'm interested to see what he does, how he handles himself, because for whatever anybody wants to say, we all saw that he was cocky. We got that. We understood where it was coming from. Nobody was surprised. Uh, but this is one of the biggest humbling things that could happen to a quarterback. I mean, forget sliding. This is not a slide. This is a absolute free fall drop.
It is this is a free this is a bungee type drop that the
Yes,
cord was cut on the way down.
that's right. That's right. Yeah. The only reason he stopped was because there was a floor. That's what this one was. You
That's
know what I
it.
mean? So so if he comes into it with the right mindset, just get to work, um, you know, and shut your mouth and be the best stinking teammate you can be. Um, I haven't heard anybody do the math yet. How much money do you think a slide like that cost him?
Millions. It cost him it could have cost him his NFL career.
It could, yeah.
Point
It
blank.
very well could.
Point blank. And we think of this where I was looking for it. I think I found it. There's a point that Dion tells Shador, no Cleveland on YouTube. Think about this. You have your father opening up his mouth. You got you coming with how many NFL players starting out have all this gold and bling? How many?
Well, now all of them do because of the NIL. But he's taken a big pay cut from college. Um, I thought it was really funny because Shiloh on one of the YouTube lives that they had, I saw the clip. He said, "Yeah, my dad was my agent but that hasn't been going too well. So I had to fire him and get a real agent. And I thought that was really funny. Um,
Having
listen,
another thing I didn't like, having this, again, how cocky that you think you're the top, let's say top 10, because they had him going in the top 10 somewhere, slated
mhm,
top 10, and you're not even at the draft.
right.
You say, I'm going to have my own private party, and you have the world legendary. What was legendary is how far you dropped when you were prospective, if even were fighting for the two top best quarterbacks and other
Right.
quarterbacks got picked. That was legendary in front of you. Not like someone like Brady, Lamar, who you go, well, they came back. No, this was a guy who was talking a lot, that people were talking him up, and he didn't even meet the hype. That is truly what is legendary. What
Yeah.
a flop.
Yes, I agree. There was some interesting areas where the quarterbacks landed. I thought Jackson Dart made a lot of sense to go to New York. Uh, he is what Daboll likes. Daboll likes big, strong, fast quarterbacks, and that's what Jackson Dart is. Uh, Josh Allen was that. He thought he might have had another one with Daniel Jones. That one didn't work out, but maybe it was just a timing thing with Daniel Jones. He didn't get him young enough, so they're taking another swing at it. A quarterback pickup that I absolutely loved, loved, and we talked about as the draft was going on. We talked about, man, what would be a good place for Shedeur, and the place we said was Miami,
Yeah,
right?
that was great.
So Shedeur and Tua, a lot of the same traits. Shedeur doesn't have as fast of a trigger, but he's accurate. Doesn't have a big arm, neither does Tua. We thought that was good. Well, the guy who ends up going to Miami as a quarterback is Quinn Ewers. Quinn or Clinton Ewers from Texas. Just for background on this kid, coming out of high school, he was the highest prospected quarterback. He was he was a big, big prospect, and he played well. Got his team to the championship game. Didn't have a good championship game, but he still got him there. And he was good enough for everybody who doesn't know how good this kid was. He was good enough to hold off Arch Manning from starting. Right? Everybody's saying that all these teams that just drafted quarterbacks could be in the Arch Manning Bowl next year to get Arch. That's how good they're saying Arch Manning is. Well, this is the guy who kept him off the field for the last 2 years. If that's not saying something big, I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Again, Miami had to take a quarterback. I would have thought
Yeah.
Shedeur would have been good with Miami, the lights, all that. I think he would have been great. And
Yeah.
again, I'm not saying he's a bad quarterback. I
And
think
it might have been a little too distracting for him, truthfully. It might be the best thing that he doesn't go to Miami.
yeah, because he went to a hole in the wall.
That's
Um,
right.
but again, picking up this kid, Quinn, he's shown himself to be a winner. So again, Tua gets bumped, another concussion. I don't know if the NFL could keep him around anymore. He now has become a liability after liability.
Looks bad.
It looks bad.
And Miami's not doing anything to stop it.
Nope.
You know. What do you think about the running back going to the Raiders, baby?
Man, he could be something that comes out this year and everyone says the next Marshall Lynch, use words generational, because when you look at his physique, yeah, could he have gone to a different team, maybe do a little better, but he will make the Raiders relevant just by his presence. You saw what happened when the Raiders lost their running back. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Mhm.
They didn't know they didn't have anything. Now they got Geno Smith. They got a good running backs. They got some wide receivers. They could make
Yeah.
some things happen.
They got Genji and they got Brock
Bowers,
Bowers.
yeah, they
I
got.
mean,
Listen, slowly but surely they've become. Wow, what a change! We could even say, I wouldn't even. I would go out there on a reach and say 5 wins extra. This running back gave them 5 wins because they got a running back
well,
quarterback.
right. That's right. Now, I was about to say that. Yeah, with all of the things that they've brought in, um, yeah, and they're in a tough division. You got Kansas City, you got the Raiders, you got the Chargers. It's just hard. That's a hard, you know, uh, uh, a division, especially with the quarterbacks that are there. So we'll have to wait and see. Um, I thought it was interesting that uh, the Seahawks went and got Jalen Milroe, the quarterback from Alabama.
I don't really like that quarterback. I don't he showed to be a little bit when the big games came up, not doing too well. But when you look at the guy's physique as a football player, he doesn't even look like a quarterback. The guy is big, um,
Mhm.
ripped, but there's been some big games, Alabama games. He did not do very well.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the kid's got a lot of physical traits, right? Big arm, can sling the ball, fast, big. You can work on a lot of the things he doesn't have. What's more interesting to me is he's not very much like the guy that they just got. They just picked up Sam Darnold. I don't think of Sam Darnold. He's not a bad athlete, but he doesn't run really. Um, I don't know. When it comes to quarterbacks, if you're going to pick a young guy to get tutored, it would make sense if he fit your system. I guess we don't know really what their system is going to be right now because that whole team is new. But as I look at it and as I remember what Gino was doing, guess maybe that's not fair. Um, I don't know. I don't know how it's going to make sense. I'm not saying it won't make sense, but I don't know how it's going to make sense right now. A team that I thought had a pretty solid draft, and I thought they held their water, so to speak, and didn't stretch for guys. Didn't stretch for Shedeur just because he was there or any other quarterback early. Was the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Well, I was really thinking about what are they doing? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're not going for any of these early quarterbacks, but Shador's there. Everybody's like Shedeur. I thought they were going to pick Shedeur. Most of the country thought they were going to pick Shedeur. Pick, somebody at one point. They were just letting him go down the waistline. I was like, I don't know what you still waiting for Aaron Rodgers? I'm like, listen, I wouldn't wait for that boat around, but that's Pittsburgh.
Yeah, but listen, I like the running back they got. They got
Yeah.
the kid from Ohio State, right? Um, I like the defensive guys they got. And they did end up picking a quarterback who I thought is a solid quarterback. Might be a solid quarterback. Now, if they're waiting for Aaron Rodgers, I do think that's a mistake. I agree with you. Um, I will say this. On many occasions, I have said that the Pittsburgh Steelers need to have a bad season. They need a bad season. They need one bad season to move up in the draft because a lot of people go, oh well, what are you going to do with one high draft pick, one in the first round? It's not just the first round. You pick high in the first round, you pick high in the second round, and in the third round. Every draft pick subsequently, you will pick that round higher than the other rounds. And they need to do that, and they need to get lucky. You know, next year's draft might actually have a lot of quarterback talent in it, and they need to be looming in that top three spot, top four spot, somewhere around there.
Yeah, I think the also just talking about the running back that they got from Iowa. He's going to go from black and gold to black and gold, right? Which is
Mm.
interesting. I think he's an okay running back. I don't think it was anything special. Just me personally, he reminds me. It's just small, almost ETN like. I didn't think he's a big
I
back.
thought it was a kid from Ohio, but maybe I got it wrong.
No, no, he's from Iowa.
Okay.
Iowa. So you go, I seen him, I watched, but I wasn't like, whoa, on him. But again, who knows half the time with these picks, how they're gonna go. But again, I was not impressed with Pittsburgh. If anything, I was lacked impressed with them on their decision making. Now one
You would
team.
have picked at least one, a quarterback
Yeah,
earlier.
yeah, I would have picked a quarterback earlier. Pick one of the good quarterbacks. Much more, man. Your fan base would have been, uh, you know, probably in the third round. Pick a quarterback. Now the team that I was probably the most impressed with that you saw them moving, you saw them aggressive, was the Giants, and I think it's because one to they need to do something, but I don't know how best to say it. They need to do something.
Yeah.
So if they don't do something with the picks they have, which they picked a stud, with their first pick, they
Abdul
just
Carter.
they're getting to the point where their coach, their GM, they're probably this year and maybe next as a short leash. I don't know how else to say it. Let's
Yeah,
see.
I,
Let's see what Scadaboo does. That's what I want to see. Can that pick up? I'm excited for that kid.
yeah, yeah. I like that kid, and Ryan, or Pittsburgh fan, wanted Scatterbo in Pittsburgh. They thought he was a real a Pittsburgh guy, and it would have made a little bit of sense. But I did think that they had a good draft. I am interested to see, because you remember they have Burns there that they pulled up from that they brought in as a free agent, and they have Kayvon Thibodeau, who they drafted. I don't think Kayvon has worked out exactly the way they thought. So I'm kind of interested to see if they actually even keep Kayvon Thibodeau. I know a lot of people are like, oh, they have their future two defensive ends. I tend to think Kayvon won't be there. I think it's going to be Abdul Carter, and I think it's going to be um, Burns, and then I think Kayvon might be left by the wayside, even maybe a tradable pick, a tradable guy to bring in more picks for next year for somebody who needs some young pass rush help on a rookie contract still. Um, I thought Jacksonville, I thought Jacksonville did good. Here's the thing. I know a lot of people were kind of like, wow, Jacksonville traded a lot to get um, Hunter, right? Yes, they did. But they needed to do something. Jacksonville has been drafting at the top of the draft. I
Number
mean,
of years now.
all but 1 year when they made it into the playoffs, when Doug Peterson first got there. That was the 1 year. Other than that, they've been at the top. Their whole stinking defensive line is first round draft picks. They had to do something, and we got to remember that they went Walker instead of Hutchinson. I'm not saying Walker's a bad player. He's not, but he's not Hutchinson. They could have had Aiden Hutchinson on the other side of Josh Allen over there, or Josh Hines Allen, and that would have been a heck of a pass rush. That'd have been a problem.
Listen, I'm gonna tell you right now, though, with Jacksonville, they took Travis Hunter for two
Yeah.
reasons. One, they needed buzz. They needed buzz.
Yes.
They needed charisma. They needed excitement. He has that. He has that Dion-ish.
Mm-hmm.
They needed a wide receiver.
Yes.
That's where they're already marking him. They said he will primarily play. He'll play a little bit of corner, but he's gonna be, I don't know. I'm gonna say that slot, that Tyreek type, running everywhere. You know what I mean? Almost out of control type. You don't know where the heck this guy is. But that's where you're gonna put him. But he's gonna have to be somewhere over the linebackers because he doesn't have the build to just run smack dab in the middle all the time. He's gonna have to move in angles because if he moves in the middle and just stays in the middle, he will not last long.
Well, I mean, listen, this kid was special in college. That's all I can say. He won the cornerback award and the wide receiver award. I mean, what can we say? Who knows how that's going to translate into the NFL? And you said that they needed buzz. I thought you were going to say they needed butts. They need
Well,
butts in
yeah,
seats,
yeah,
baby.
yeah.
They're about to build a brand new stadium. They're going to blow up their stadium and have a traveling show of the NFL. You know, we're hoping that they'll come to Orlando, maybe Daytona area, um, and uh, and play here as opposed to kind of going up towards Gainesville or Atlanta. But they need to fill these stadiums and they need to sell jerseys. And I guarantee you that that black and teal is going to sell with Travis Hunter's number 12, if he stays number 12.
I agree. I agree. Again, you're right. They needed that. And again, I'm not saying they picked wrong. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that. If anything, they picked right to pick him up. But they're looking at not again, I think they look at the whole aspect with him, the whole business. That's what they were looking at with Travis Hunter.
You know what they did, man, and I gotta respect it because a lot of people did the opposite in this draft. They swung big.
That's
They
true.
were like, we've been swinging at pitches this whole time. Swing, 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 swing. Oh, nice little single. Swing, swing, swing. Man, we're like, man, this year, we're gonna swing from our toes. We're gonna come flying out of the box and swing as hard as we can. And we hope we connect on something great. And I can't fault them for that because if you're saying, and he's been compared to, and understandably, the Shohei Ohtani of football, right?
That's deep.
Yeah, but you get it, right? We get how that comes about. What if we would have known how good this Shohei would have been? How big of a swing originally would every team have made at Shohei to try to get him in the building?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think it was interesting. I thought that our team, the Buffalo Bills, I thought they had a good draft. I thought they had a good draft. We got the cornerback who was the fastest corner in the combine. He ran a 4.23 at the combine. I like that. We brought back Tre'Davious White as a backup. And so we've got some depth now. We've got the young kid. I think that's a good play, especially with all the speed, that's on Miami and that's on Kansas City, right? We needed some speed. We turned around and we got a defensive tackle who's a penetrating defensive tackle. He's not, the run stuffing guy, even though he doesn't play the run badly. He moves on the line a lot. He's very instinctive. I really like how he played. I think he's a menace. He looked like a menace to me in college. He moved so much. And a guy who we didn't think was going to be there that late in the second. I didn't think it was bad. Yeah, we traded up. What did we trade? We traded our two for their three. So basically, all we did was move back a little bit, and we didn't have a third round draft pick. So we gained something we didn't have. We gave up one of our twos.
You're in regards to Jack London. Um,
No.
no, how we did that for? We did it for the guy
Uh,
from
JT or TJ Simmons.
Simmons.
That I
That's what
think.
we did that for.
Yeah,
I thought Jack London was a third round pick.
he's the third round pick. So that's the pick that we got for moving up to Jack to get Simmons, and then Jack London, another guy who I like, long frame, real big, a hitter. Every time I saw him hit guys, he was taking them down.
What I didn't like, again, he played with LSU. He was much smaller,
Hmm.
much small. He's long, and he filled out his frame when he went to Arkansas. You could see
Hmm.
it. You could see his playing. Um, he's a work in progress,
Yeah,
still, but a big guy, long, almost reminds me in length. And when I thought of, I don't know why. Again, I have to look at how they compare. But Bruce Smith, for some reason, I go, man, if this guy even puts on a little bit more weight, more size, I was
yeah,
like, man, his arms feel like they go on forever. And
very long.
he's not that bad. He got to continue to work on some technique there on the edge. But remember, Buffalo never they play by committee. So
Right.
this guy's not going to be in on the field and go, well, he's there on the first down, second down, third down, fourth. They're going to put him in on situational downs
Yeah,
until
packages.
unless he shows some real genius. But again, I think this kid is possibly he's married. He's not, when you hear him talk, he's eloquent. So what I like about him is we're getting kind of an unfinished product, but personally he's finished. Meaning I don't see him as a kid. Oh, this is the
Right.
guy who's gonna go out to go buy this car, and all this. No, he seems like, hey, I'm a family man. I'm married. I'm coming to work. That's his mentality. And I think if he comes with that mentality of Buffalo, man, and again, we don't know what's happening to Bosa. We don't know. He gets hurt. These young guys could fit right in.
Yeah, and I think he is a fifth year senior, if I remember correctly, because of the COVID year. So you're right. And he needed that fifth year.
He
But
did.
you know what? It takes a lot because he could have came out last year and come out probably in the fifth round, sixth round as a prospect with the body frame. Instead, he was mature enough to go, no, I need this next year. I need to show what I really got, and got bigger and got stronger. And I like that. I like that. I like a guy who's going to work at it. I don't want a guy who comes in and goes, this is who I am. You know what I mean? And what if you watch his tape, there's two things I noticed, right? When I was watching his highlight package. Now, of course, it's the highlight reel, so I get it. But uh, pursuing after, guys running to the right, he's lined up on the left, and he trails the play and catches them on that backside because he's very fast. At 6'6", he ran a 4.6 40. That's moving for a guy with his stride. You know what I mean? So I really like that. And when he got him, he wasn't dragging guys down. He wasn't pulling them. He was exploding through quarterbacks, wrapping, boom, laying big hits after big hits. I didn't see one hit that was just a kind of oh, he got him. No. When he got the opportunity, he laid a good hit on him. And, a guy who plays with effort and lays a good hit, I'll take that guy on my team every day. So I was really happy with Buffalo's. If you look at our draft, we kind of ran the gamut. We got the speedy cornerback. We got a bigger cornerback. We got the defensive tackle. We got a defensive edge. We got the big three technique defensive tackle. I forget that guy. I think he's the kid from Kentucky. I think he was 6'6" and 331 pounds or something like that. I mean, massive. We really ran the gamut. We even picked up an offensive lineman who was a big guy like that as well. And I think a lot of people would say Buffalo's offensive line is good, but this kid had all the physical traits, and they're going to bring him in and see what they got. You know what I mean? I thought it was smart. We had 10 draft picks. We didn't use all of them. We used some of the equity to move up and move around. And I was pretty happy with how Buffalo's draft came out. I know a lot of people online, a couple of people I was looking at, they didn't like it because they wanted Buffalo to draft starters for our team. We need to go get starters. We're drafting 29 guys.
It's interesting though. We are drafting 29. Bean has been pretty consistent. He's not always going to
Or 30th.
get the big star name, right? We even were a little upset last year. He started moving back because of Kansas City. That's the only thing that upset me is who he decided to trade with. But even now you said, well, okay, he got the cornerback. There's some wide receivers out there. Could he get maybe a running back? I was thinking at one point they were going to go running back. But I think he's consistent to who he is and his analytical team. I think everybody's going to be a star on this team? No. Do I think the cornerback that we picked up, is he fast like lightning? Seems like he has a good work ethic. Is he going to be that guy who comes in and blows everybody up? No. But I think you don't have to. You just have to stop them from getting the ball. That's it.
Right.
You just got to attack the ball. Forget about always having to attack a person. Are the receivers strong and all that? Yes. But we both going for the same thing, the ball. So I think somebody will come out of this draft that's always going to be useful. And that's how we get useful guys. We don't always maybe get these star-studded guys. Coleman wasn't that star-studded guy. Many people had him. He dropped way far back, and we picked him. And I think personality, Bean looks at that personality, how they interview, that's big to him. That's why a person like Shedeur would have never came to him, and he's looking at, that personality, that character, but how you play. You're just a football player. That's what he wants. He wants a football player.
Yeah.
So,
and I don't know if you saw during the draft, the cornerback that he had to wait around. Buffalo didn't pick till 30, so he waited around, and he dapped up almost every single person. He was going up to them. He was so happy that they got drafted. He's not getting drafted, but he was happy for them being drafted. And then when it was his turn,
John, I think, you know what? That could have got him drafted because there was still some cornerbacks that I kind of liked too. Some other guys out there that I liked. I didn't even know about this guy. You know what I mean? Really. But they could have been watching. They could have been like, this kid is, if he's on the board and maybe he's 2 down from what we think, they could have said, we're going to go, that's why they went and got him.
They love character. They love character guys. Because they're like, even if he might not get, let's say he's rated as an 80, you know what I mean? He's giving me 100% effort of that 80, as opposed to a guy who may be a little bit cocky and full of himself and is rated at a 90, but he's only giving me 60% on 30% of the passes or whatever the case may be. And as far as his size, the speedy receivers are small. If you're a big receiver, that's what we got Christian Benford for. You know what I mean? And safeties over the top and everything like that. So, anything else that you saw in the draft that interests you?
No, the kid out of North Carolina getting picked by the Chargers. Chargers got a good offensive line. Man, Harbaugh is building up something there that's kind of looking kind of nasty. And that kid from North Carolina, he was the second best running back out there, big running back. I like him too. And you couldn't go wrong with either quarterback. So I think, man, they're going to look pretty good.
and they picked a big bruising back last year too. They now they got two rookie running backs on their team. I think Gus Edwards is gone now. The running back that they brought over from Baltimore. I think he was only there for 1 year.
They got
So,
Harris.
oh, Najee. Man, so they got some power. They're telling you exactly what they want to do. They want to run power. I thought it was cool. You know, a couple of the teams picked. I can't remember the two kids, but Higgins and
Yep, Higgins.
yeah,
I don't know where he went. I can't remember where he went though.
uh, I'll think of it in a second. Anyway, they picked both wide receivers from the same place. So they picked Higgins and his partner, and they went into I was Loveland maybe, and they went to the same place. So
Well,
I thought that.
Loveland wasn't that the tight end and went to Chicago?
Oh yeah. I thought that was an
Well,
interesting move.
you know, I was interested. That was interesting because I think you're right. I think they also picked up a wide receiver over there. So that tells me something in Chicago that they're probably going to use somebody as draft bait.
And well, remember Keenan Allen's no longer there, so they're down to just
Well,
DJ Moore
Dunze.
and Adunze. So you know they need a couple of guys still, and they got Cole Kmet, and they picked up a running back. So what it tells you is that they want to run the ball, and that's why they picked him over the other tight end because that other tight end doesn't block as well. You know, better pass catcher.
Well, they're gonna go out with a two tight end set. You know, the kid that they picked up is a technically they say it looks like a big wide receiver. So I think he's kind of be like almost a Shannon Sharp situation. So I think Chicago's going to come out a little different this year.
I thought a lot of teams, it was a little bit of a conservative draft, not a lot of big swings. And I think that's why there was so much talent or so many guys that you were happy to draft. Let's say it that way, I guess, in the later rounds, because they went with who they thought was the most solid up front, which was a lot of defensive tackles. The offensive linemen all went first. You know, they went with those guys. And then in the later rounds, they kind of, you know, picked around and said, hey, this guy's still sitting here. Well, I'll take him, you know.
Who picked up the other Shiloh boy? Tampa Bay. That's interesting. That was interesting. So, you know, you'd see, hey, let's see what the kid does. He has a shot to come on the field. He may make the practice squad. He may make the team. I don't know. But
Yeah.
you know, to really, that says a lot for a team that is a very, you know, defensive oriented coach, defensive team to pick up him. That says a lot. So you know, he has a chance.
Bold prediction. Who gets on the field first? Shiloh or Shedeur? Now, Shiloh's undrafted, but he went to Tampa.
Little small.
Shedeur's got to fight his way through 4 different quarterbacks.
I'm gonna say Shiloh.
I like that.
I'm gonna say Shiloh. I think Shedeur has men. He just has a mountain. And if he don't get it right, he may never play football again.
Well, we're gonna leave it right there. I mean, what more can you say about that? I think it's going to be interesting. What I hope is that we don't hear from him until it's time. If we hear too much from him throughout the season, if I'm him, I'm not taking no request for any interviews. I'm going to do as many interviews as a 5th, you know, ranked quarterback on a team does, which is 0. And that's exactly what he should do.
Listen, man, I would the only way I would be talking is through Instagram and Facebook, and somebody else would be writing it. I would not be talking. If every time the only word that come out of my mouth is thank you, and I'm blessed. That's all that'll be coming out of my mouth.
All right, guys, go ahead and tell us in the comments who you think the big winner of the draft is, and what is your big bold prediction? Tell me a bold prediction for one of these draft picks. Who do you think is going to come out and just have have had the steal of this draft, because I think that's going to be an interesting conversation coming out later on this year. When these rookies really start going, there's going to be a surprise. There always is. I think in this draft, it's going to be multiple guys are going to really shine and surprise everybody. Roy, what kind of surprise do you want the people to do, and what do we tell them every time?
Hey guys, keep on talking to a stranger about sports today. Continue, guys, like, subscribe. Just hit the like button, subscribe to us. It don't hurt you none, but it helps us a whole lot.